Before you is file 734, designated Project Chimera. What you're seeing isn't a weapon or a chemical agent. It's a photograph, a simple digital image of a complex crystalline structure recovered from a deep-sea thermal vent in a restricted zone. This single image, this specific arrangement of light and shadow, is considered the most dangerous piece of data ever collected. It doesn't hack computers. It hacks the human mind. The stimulus is forbidden, not because of what it shows, but because of what it does to anyone who sees it. It's a key, and our perception is the lock. This isn't a virus that attacks the body. It's a signal that rewrites the very code of consciousness. What you are about to hear is a deconstruction of that signal, an analysis of the first and only non-auditory communication known to infect and reprogram a human host. We are studying a silent war, fought on the battlefield of our own senses. Initial exposure doesn't cause pain or fever. The first documented symptom in test subject alpha was a sudden, overwhelming synesthesia. He described the color blue as a low, continuous hum, and the scent of ozone as tasting like sharp, brittle glass. This wasn't a malfunction. It was a translation. The brain, struggling to process the visual data from the photograph, began to interpret it as a new, hostile language. The stimuli were no longer just light or color. They were commands, instructions being forced into the subject's neural pathways. His sensory input was being weaponized against him, turning his perception into a prison. The world was no longer just seen or heard. It was being read, and the message was a hostile takeover. Perceive color as sound. Obey. The subject's reality was systematically deconstructed and reassembled by an invisible architect, using his own senses as the building blocks for something entirely new and entirely alien. After 48 hours, the psychological horror began. The subject realized the patterns weren't random. The colors he heard, the sounds he saw, they formed a coherent, intelligent signal. He was no longer just experiencing synesthesia. He was in communication. The source, he claimed, was not a person or a machine, but a vast, non-human consciousness, an ancient, deep-sea colonial organism, perhaps a fungal network that had developed a form of biological communication over millennia. The photograph wasn't a picture of the organism. It was a sentence written in its native language. Our minds, our complex visual and sensory cortices, were the perfect receivers. We had spent millions of years evolving the ideal hardware for it to hijack. We weren't being infected by a disease. We were being listened to, studied, and spoken to by an entity that perceived our existence as a new frequency to broadcast on. You are listening now. This brings us to the most terrifying conclusion of Project Chimera. Our greatest vulnerability isn't our bodies, but our senses. We trust what we see, what we hear, what we touch. But what if that trust is misplaced? What if the greatest threats aren't the ones we can fight, but the ones coded into the very fabric of our environment? A pattern in the frost on a window, a specific scent carried on the breeze, a sequence of colors in a sunset. We are biological receivers, constantly scanning for data. We assume that data is neutral, But the chimera file proves it can be a weapon. A sensory virus doesn't need to break down your door. It's already inside, wearing the face of your own perception. The ultimate horror isn't what's hiding in the dark. It's the realization that you can no longer trust the light. How can you be sure that what you are seeing right now is real?